Good morning. If we could take our seats, we'll get started. Good morning. I'm Gregory Mason, and welcome to First Presbyterian Church for Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church's service. We'll start with some announcements. Please turn in your 24-25 pledge forms at your earliest convenience. The deadline is in 1 week, so you still have time to get it in before St. Patrick's Day to be invited to attend a special celebration event later this month. The annual Pledge Drive celebration dinner and dance at Infusino's has been changed to Friday, April 12th from 5 to 8 p.m. All pledge gift donor households may come for free. Good incentive for getting your pledge in, including children. Tickets are available after the service today from Diane Lang. Guest tickets are also available for $30. All of the upcoming cottage meetings arranged by the facilities task force are full, except for the in-person dinner meeting scheduled for Monday, March 18th at 6 p.m. here at First Presbyterian. There is a link to the sign-up form in this morning's email. If you have any questions, please contact Andrea Bumpers. March 13th, there will be a Date with Death Club meeting on Zoom at 7 p.m. to talk through the process of planning memorial services. On March 15th, there is a St. Patrick's dessert potluck and karaoke party here in Erman Hall from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Join in the fun as Reverend Danielle and Leanne sing some of their favorite songs. I'm pretty sure Bruce Springsteen, right? Yeah, okay. March 18th, there will be another Article 2 conversation on Zoom at 6:30 p.m. March 24 is the next deadline for paper raise right orders. If you need a paper form, see me. Many people have been wondering and asking if we were going to have a church auction this year. And the answer is yes! It will be online again the middle of May. More details to come. As you do your cleaning, weeding out, or downsizing, think of the auction. And as you know, when we have events, the sign-up events, it brings people together, and people so much enjoy those sign-up events. And, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. So start thinking of what services or events you might like to offer. Thank you to our volunteers today, our ushers, Mike Rood and Pam Smiley, our Zoom host, Patti Riemann, and our coffee hour hosts, Jan Fredrickson, Brana Woolman, and Sandy Berezowitz. If you are interested in bringing something for coffee hour next Sunday, see Jan Fredrickson. For more information and details about all these announcements, along with others and community announcements, see your weekly emails. In your order of service, paper or online, are dates for some of the upcoming events. Take your order of service home for a handy reference for adding to your calendar. Please join us for coffee hour in Erman Hall following the service. For those joining us on YouTube, log into Zoom after the service for conversation. The link is in today's email.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Suzanne Landis, worship assistant for this service. I want to give a special welcome to our worship leader, Patti Fitchett, who is the Director of Community Worship at Bradford Community Church UU. A brief bio for Patti is she holds a bachelor's degree in theater arts, an associate degree in funeral service. She will celebrate 30 years as a UU this summer and is delighted to be able to bring her faith to others by officiating at memorial services and weddings. She is a member of Over Our Head Players and loves a good comedy in poor taste. She is a lifelong resident of Kenosha and has 2 grown sons and 2 grand dogs. So welcome, Patti. As we gather once again, we remember that our mission as a church is to be a community of hope, one that challenges us to transform ourselves, promote love and justice, respect all faiths, and shepherd our planet. Together, we journey toward wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. And as a people committed to the work of justice, we covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. Let us claim and celebrate the promise of our UU faith that all of who we are is welcome in this co-created sacred space, both in person and online. It is good to be together. We will begin our service this morning with shared ritual, the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Lighting our chalice for us this morning are Ellie and Lyra.
Good job. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within us and around us. And so please rise with me in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life. Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let life be my legacy.
And now it's time for the message for all ages. So if all the children and those young at heart can come on forward. So this morning, the story that I'm going to read is called Mole Music by David McPhail. And this is a book about transformation. It's about change, and it's about a mole who changed. And he did it through practice, which is incredibly important. I always would tell Kira and Connor, practice is the most important thing that you can do. You practice, 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 and you'll change and get better. Okay? And that's what this is about. But I also, so look at how the mole changed. But I also want you to pay attention. You know, moles live under the ground. We have moles in my yard. They live under, either they're under the ground or they're like under the leaves. They're never like on top. So, but this mole has no idea. He's imagining it, but he's changing the people that live on the ground above him. So watch the people transform as well. Mole lived all alone underground. He spent his day digging tunnels. At night, he ate his supper in front of the TV and then went to bed. Mole liked his life, but lately he had begun to feel there was something missing. One night on television, a man played the violin. He made the most beautiful music Mole had ever heard. I want to make beautiful music too, Mole said to himself. So the next day, he sent away for a violin of his very own. Every day, Mole checked his mailbox. No violin. Finally, after nearly 3 weeks, it arrived. Mole was so excited. Is there anyone in here that plays the violin? Lyra does, yep. Yep, Lyra's practicing. He picked up the violin and drew the bow across the strings, but instead of beautiful music, all he made was a horrible screeching sound. I think parents understand that. Mole tried again. The violin still screeched, but not quite so horribly. Mole kept at it. After about a week, he could play one note, then two. And before a month went by, he could play an entire scale. Mole continued to practice. He learned to put the notes together in a simple song. Years went by. Do you think he's getting any better? After years, I hope so, yeah. Yeah, look at the trees growing. Yeah, that is interesting. So that's how you know that years went by, right? The trees growing and the music, and it's getting to be a huge tree. Mole got better and better. Do you think the music's helping the tree grow? Malcolm, is that what you're thinking? They say if you sing to your plants, so maybe the music for the tree, huh? He was happier than he'd ever been. During the day, as he dug tunnels, Mole hummed the music he would play at night. Now, Mole played even better than the man he'd seen on TV so long ago. Sometimes he wondered what it would be like to play his music for people. Are the people listening to his music up there? Yeah. He doesn't think they are. He doesn't know it, but they're listening. He imagined himself playing before a huge audience. He imagined that he played for presidents and queens. Mm-hmm. He even imagined that his music could reach into people's hearts and melt away their anger and sadness. What's happening here? They're about to go to war. Do you think the music's going to help? Why, maybe his music could even change the world. Mole laughed at himself. How silly I am, he thought, imagining that my music could do all that when no one has even heard it. Did it stop the war? It did. They're like dancing and shaking hands. Mole played one more song, then put down his violin and went to sleep and dreamed beautiful, peaceful dreams. So practice, practice, practice. Yep, he did it. Now it's time for the children's blessing.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. My name is Shirley Reynolds. I came to OBUUC in 1980. I joined in 1982, and I've been asked today to tell you what I like about this church. And I could talk all day, but I'm not going to. We have said often, and I know it's true, it's the people who make this church. Just the people, just you and me. When I was in the nursing home in 2013 and again in 2015 and 16, for a total of over 3 months, you were the ones who got me through those times. My family was 200 miles south of here, so we talked on the phone and did email, but you were my in-person family. I had tons of cards encouraging me to get well, to have a good Thanksgiving, and a Merry Christmas that mostly came from you. I had visits from so many of you, and often you brought me ice cream, cookies, muffins. Sometimes you brought my daughter, who's unable to drive, and that really made my day. You came with smiles and jokes and books and Christmas carols. You made those unbearable times bearable for me, and often even fun. Because of these experiences, when Tony and Craig had to leave us for a while, I told Craig I'd like to adopt his position as the facilitator of the Good Shepherd Committee. This has been an incredibly wonderful job to have. I get to see the kindness, the love, and the caring from us when adversity strikes someone in our church family. The Good Shepherds have provided meals, transportation, durable medical equipment, and cheerful cards when needed. We have helped at memorial services, and every month we remember folks who, for reasons of age or disability, are unable to maintain their connection to this church. I support this church for many other reasons, of course. The RE program was wonderful when my daughter was growing up. We have a very talented minister and a great staff. We have a social justice committee, and we have adopted the 8th principle. And those two committees have provided all of us with education and with the opportunity to put our UU principles and values and faith into action. They have led us to support an asylum-seeking family, which was no small task. As a woman and as a feminist, I also love the opportunities for women in this church and for the role that women who came before me have played. I don't mean to overlook the contributions of men, but young men have always had access to older men who have led the way. women haven't. And for me to find so many women leaders in one place was a blessing. I feel such gratitude for these women who are no longer with us. As this list got longer, I thought about not reading these names in the interest of time, but these women deserve to be known and honored for their contributions to OBUUC and to our Racine community. You'll remember some of them. Women like Joanne Rowan, Charlotte Cote, Marcia Alexander, Betty Alford, Joyce Van Devant, Joy Botts, Andrea Edgerton, Carol Corte, Elda Vale, Barbara Lindquist, Joyce Hirschberger, Judy Hartig-Osenka, Mary Ann Myers, Carol Baker, Peg Luco, Mary Finley, Joanne Zawicki, Donna Peterson, Betty Olson, Carmen Regau, Pat Cardis, Sonia Beckfar, Kleina Barrett, Ann Meyerland, Mary Etta McLean, Lucinda Cloutier, Jan Klum, Dottie Dow, Judith Christensen, Joyce Baker, Jean Johnson, Mary Jo Kaiserlian, Beverly Becker, Bunny Bagnacki, Fran Bedford, Evie Christensen, Sue Seitz, Jenny Burlingame, and of course, Olympia Brown. And if you can remember someone that I have not named, please let me know. The only reason that Fran Scott and Jean Arnold and a few others aren't named here is because, fortunately, they are still with us. I hope we all remember during this Women's History Month that these are the shoulders that we stand on. As I said earlier, it is the people who make this church, and it takes all of us, women, men, youth, to make it work. It takes our energy, our special talents, and our love to make this big family function. It also takes our money. These are many of the reasons that I am serious about making a meaningful pledge to OBUUC. I don't pay all of my bills every month with great happiness, but every month when I pay my pledge, I do it with a big smile and a lot of gratitude. I hope you do too. Thank you.
I just want to lift up that our partner for the month of March is Racine Montessori School, which is part of a global community that guides the whole child toward a lifelong love of learning. Racine Montessori School hopes to provide a Montessori education to all families that seek to join their school community. The donations that they receive will be used to sustain their scholarship fund, which reduces tuition for families who need financial assistance. So for all of the ways that you can donate, please see the back of your order of service. When we come together in community, we bring with us our joys and our sorrows that are on our hearts. Being here reminds us that we do not hold them alone. If you have a joy or a sorrow this morning, you are invited now to come forward and light a candle. We light one more candle for the joys and the sorrows that are on the hearts of our beloveds who are online. Will you join me now in singing our response, "There is a love holding me, there is a love holding us." The words are found in your order of service.
We gather here to seek unity of spirit in the midst of diversity, to heal the wounded and confront the oppressor, to instill joy and confidence in our children, to grow in mind, body, and spirit ourselves, and to bear witness to the transforming power of love, beyond which not a single atom nor soul is lost forever. Thus do we covenant with each other in the presence of that which is holy. And so, good morning. I'm Patti. My pronouns are she and her. I'm so excited to be here today. As Suzanne mentioned, I celebrate 30 years as a Unitarian Universalist this summer. And I only can remember because I walked in with a 1.5-year-old baby on my hip, and he's 31 now. So I know that you all use the Soul Matters curriculum as we do down at Bradford in Kenosha. And when the topic of transformation came up, the thing that immediately came to me as an old theater kid is all of the years that I spent learning to transform my youthful face into the face of a 65-year-old woman, since I was playing the stepmother starting at age 14. And now, of course, which Gregory can attest to, when I play a 65-year-old woman, I don't use any makeup at all. I also think of transformation in terms of my nephew Kyle, who's a drag queen, and his transformation from Kyle to Kitty DeVille, and the total and utter difference in his appearance that happens when he undergoes his transformation. And of course, like many of you, I've undergone many personal transformations, from student to wife to parent of a critically ill child, to Unitarian Universalist, to a lay leader, to someone who worked a lot of different odd jobs. One job that I got was at a funeral home selling pre-need burial insurance. And I was really bad at it. You know, some people just have a knack for sales. I didn't have it. You know, my boss would put me in a room with some people, and I would give them my spiel about why they should pre-plan for their funeral. And they would walk out, and I would say to my boss, oh, they just weren't ready to make a decision. And my boss would say, he had his checkbook on the table in front of him. So obviously that wasn't my niche. But one day, while I was working at the funeral home, and this is, I think, in the year 2000, a family had a death, and they wanted to have a memorial service, but the deceased didn't believe in God. And so everybody at the funeral home just was looking around at each other like, well, how can we have a funeral? How can we have a service if the deceased doesn't believe in God? And I kind of thought, well, have you heard of Unitarian Universalism? And so that was the day that my Unitarian Universalism really came in handy. And that became my avocation, is being able to help people with funerals and memorial services, and making them personal, and making them not cookie cutter, and making them not a reflection of whatever afterworld some people want to focus on, to make a memorial service a reflection of who the person was and what their beliefs were. So my touchstone has always been Unitarian Universalism. Now, I say always, but only since 1994. I did grow up Catholic in Kenosha, 12 years Catholic school, which means that I'm wonderfully well educated, taught by nuns. But one of the touchstones of UUism that I always try to bring to mind whenever there's a moment of transformation in my life is a little reading from the back of our hymnal, and it says, "May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and in miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other." And so we're going to talk about transformation. As my friend who shall remain nameless, oh, all right, it's my friend Danny, she's sitting right over there. She said to me the other day, "How old do I have to be before I can stop transforming, dear God? When can I just be?" And I get that. I get that, where, you're constantly on that self-realization and self-improvement, and it can be really exhausting. Spiritual transformation requires us to keep learning, to keep sharing, to keep healing. Now, some of you know that I am the queen of the inappropriate posts on the Facebook. And there's two that struck me this week, two little memes that someone posted. One of them was this: "I don't care that much about wrinkles and gray hair. I'm more worried about keeping my worldview flexible enough that when I'm older, I don't condescendingly tell young people to play by the rules that worked in my day, with no concern for whether or not those rules still apply." And the other one that really struck me was, "I'm glad that as I've gotten older, I've gotten fatter and not more politically conservative." So each of us is on the journey by ourselves and in community of transformation. And like I said, it can be exhilarating or it can be exhausting, but you have to fill your own reserves to be prepared for the work ahead. There's a poet that I like named John Riddell, and here's a reading that he has about transformation and healing. He says, "Healing doesn't mean that you forgot where your scars came from or who gave them to you. Healing doesn't mean that your heart will go back to how it looked before the world so casually broke it. Healing doesn't mean that you are over what happened, whatever the hell that means. Healing doesn't mean that you won't start crying again randomly. Your tear ducts are a broken faucet. Healing doesn't mean that the trauma you buried won't be unearthed. Mummies often exhume themselves anyway. Healing isn't your final destination, where your wound is reduced to being a little anecdote that you tell during cocktail parties. Healing is the slow journey by train across steep mountains, where it feels like your car will spill over the edge at any moment down into the abyss below. Healing is a wild pilgrimage into the vast unknown. Healing has the wheel now, and it doesn't need any backseat driving. Just be patient, my love. Healing takes the back roads. Just remember, Healing has no finish line. Healing has no due date. Healing has no schedule. Healing has no use for maps. Healing has no agenda. Healing has no instruction booklet. Healing is a perpetual motion machine. Healing is an endless Wyoming sky. Healing is the 1,000-year flood. Healing is the constant itch on your soul. Healing is the simmering pot. Healing is the maze without any exit. Don't rush your healing, because what's the point? Healing never ends. Just because new skin has grown over your injury, it doesn't mean that the ache is gone. Honor those deep pangs of yesterday. They are now chapters in your history. Be on friendly terms with your pain if it shows up for tea later today, because it will likely be back again tomorrow. Because healing is a schoolroom that doesn't have a recess bell. Because healing is a church service that has no recessional song. Because healing is the relentless tide that keeps trying to wash your feet. Because healing is the unfinished home that constantly smells of sawdust and new paint. Healing just keeps going on and on and on. Healing keeps moving forward as a gentle reminder that we must do the same. And so, even Unitarian Universalism, even my touchstone, is changing. I know that you mentioned earlier that you all have been working on the 8th principle. Now, I have a son who has a tattoo of a chalice that it's made out of a big 7 for the 7 principles. And I said to him, you know, they're changing the 7 principles. They might add an 8th one, or they might do away with it altogether. And of course, like a typical 30-year-old, he said, whatever. So, as for the original 7 principles, I personally could never remember them without singing the kids' song. 1, each person is important. 2, be kind with all you do. It's exciting to me that as a faith, that Unitarian Universalism is kind of reinventing itself, sort of transforming itself. So I've been really fascinated with this whole Article 2 revamping of the 7 principles. And so I just want to share a little bit with you today of the Article 2. It says, as Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared visions. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through our spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. Number 2, pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Number 3, justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. 4, generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. And generosity, like Shirley reminded us this morning, There were several names in that list that I remembered, so thank you so much for holding them up for us today, Shirley. Number 5, equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. And what do you think number 6 is? Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. And so it's good to have this groundwork because transformation is messy. It's messy, and sometimes it's painful, and sometimes there's tears, and sometimes some folks don't get their way. Now, I told you before that I'm celebrating 30 years as a Unitarian Universalist, and when I came to Bradford Church in 1994, one of the biggest things, one of our things, was anti-racism. We did a lot of workshops. We were part of the Coalition for Dismantling Racism. We were part of the Kindness Week celebration that was invented in Kenosha around Dr. King's birthday. And so, for a while there, we were really sitting on our laurels there. We are hot snot here as far as anti-racism work goes. And we kind of let it go for a little while because we were sort of busy sitting on our laurels. Well, along came 2018, and the church was sort of at a crossroads. We had new ministry. I know you can all relate to that. All of the work that we had done, we were being asked to redo it. And it all came to a head in one meeting after church one day. Our Black Lives Matter committee brought a resolution to the church. Should we put a Black Lives Matter banner on the outside of the church? Now, I thought this one was a slam dunk. And I remember my deeply held, cogent argument, which was, and let me check my notes, Olympia Brown has one. But the conversation continued, and real truths started to come out. And we realized that maybe in 2018, we weren't this bastion of anti-racism that we'd always thought we were. And the motion to have the banner on the outside of the church failed. And there were hurt feelings, and there were tears. But we went back to work, more meetings, renamed the committee, more members, more book clubs, more reading of anti-racist literature, more listening to people of color, less being the white people in the room talking about the problem that didn't really affect us. It was hard. It's hard to kind of take the back seat and say, you know what, maybe we're not the be-all and end-all of anti-racism work here in town. So we did. We buckled down. We did more work. We had a great 2-day workshop with Reggie Jackson and Fran Kaplan from the Black Holocaust Museum in Milwaukee. And so we were trudging along. We were doing the work. And then came 2020, the pandemic. Our church was forced to shut its doors. The year started with the pandemic, and then the police murder of George Floyd, and then a Kenosha cop shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back. We were ready. We had done the work. Kenosha burned, and almost with it, our church. This is the letter that we put out August 24th, 2020. To the community of Kenosha and beyond, we, the members and clergy of Bradford Community Church, Unitarian Universalist, are outraged at the violence perpetrated in the name of law enforcement on our people of color throughout our nation's history, and yesterday in Kenosha, in the case of Jacob Blake, for whose life we now pray. Despite the fact that we cannot condone violent response to injustice, we understand and appreciate the anger and frustration that fueled the events of last night. While we are relieved that our church home mostly survived the inferno in the car lot next door, we affirm that we would rather lose 100 buildings than one more life to police violence. Some folks have already commented that our decision to display Black Lives Matter on our road sign in some way contributed to the fire, or that our support of the Black Lives Matter movement is hypocritical or unchristian. Indeed, all lives do matter to us. That's what universalist means. But given the overwhelming and disproportionate injustice suffered by Americans of color, we are compelled by our faith to speak up and affirm that Black lives matter too. If this is not your faith, so be it, but it is most certainly ours. And we ask that all folks be respectful in honoring our sacred calling to speak truth to power, protect the innocent, empower the disenfranchised, and promote equity and compassion in human relations. In the name of love, Reverend Eric David Carlson and Reverend Dr. Monica L. Cummings, on behalf of Bradford Community Church, Unitarian Universalist, Kenosha. But as Paul Harvey used to say, and now the rest of the story. That was the day that Kyle Rittenhouse came to town with his big, big gun and his tiny, tiny mindset. Clergy and members were there for the protest that day. Bradford church member, the Reverend Kimberly Tomshat Carlson, talked to the man who put out the call for armed militia to come to town. She asked him as he stood there with his weapon strapped to his chest, "Should I be afraid of you?" He laughed and told her no, his people were just there to keep the peace. He went home then, and a few hours later, Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 people, killing 2, then walked right by the police who had earlier told him he'd done a great job and given him a bottle of water. He raised his hands and walked right past the police and back to his home in Illinois. There were hundreds of protests that didn't make the news, all of them peaceful. For more info on this time, go to bradforduu.org, click the Justice tab, and click August 2020 for coverage by many of the national news outlets and the story of the journalists who saved our church with water from the rain barrel. And so all of this happened while we didn't have our church. The doors were closed. And so we had vigils during the pandemic, outside, masked, during curfew, because even though the city was under siege and there was a police order to be in our homes by dark, we needed church. Even on the sidewalk while social distancing, we needed church. When the only way to heal was in community, we needed church. To help with the transformation to the new normal, we needed church. And so it's always about transformation. And no matter where we meet, when we meet, it's church. Now, sometimes we choose transformation, and sometimes transformation is thrust upon us. But either way, when we come to that point of transformation and growth, we can look to our community for the support to make this new reality. And so let us pray together with the words of the Reverend Lynn Cox. Creative Spirit, source of life and love, we give thanks for the beauty of this day and for the company of those assembled here. Thank you for the breezes of change, clearing our heads and bringing fresh ideas. May they cleanse our minds of the oppressions and isms that divide us. Thank you for the flame of hope, the heat of righteous anger, the warmth of compassion, and the fire of commitment. May they bubble the cauldrons of transformation. The cauldrons of transformation, that reminds me of you, Jean Arnold. May they bubble the cauldrons of transformation. Thank you for oceans of love, rivers of connection, tears of relief, and pools of serenity. May healing waters flow over us and through us and among us, wearing down the sharp rocks of despair to bring joy in the morning. Thank you for the good earth beneath us, around us, and within us. May we take this clay and co-create a new realm of justice and beauty. Thank you for all these and more. We accept our gifts and commit to building, sculpting, painting, singing, and dancing them to life, to abundant life. So be it. Blessed be, and amen. And now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 300 with heart and mind. With heart and mind and voice and hand, may we this time and place transcend to make our purpose understood. A mortal search for mortal good, a firm commitment to the goal of justice, freedom, peace for all. A mind that's free to seek the truth, a mind that's free in age and youth to choose a path no threat impedes, wherever light of conscience leads. Our martyrs died so we could be
We extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light that is within each one of us. That light will continue to burn brightly as we go forward into another week, knowing that we are held always in a larger love.
May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction until we are all changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming our better selves.